everyone, I hope everyone is doing well. And for today's video, I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons to being a flight attendant. Number one pro is getting a chance to travel. That's probably one of the main reasons why a lot of people become flight attendants is because they really want to travel and see the world. And that's one of the reasons why I became a flight attendant, because I wanted to see what else is out there. And I have been fortunate enough to go to a few destinations. I haven't been everywhere yet. I still have a long list of places to go to, but having those benefits with your airline is definitely a perk. And so when it comes to domestic traveling, you do get a chance to travel for free. And when it comes to international traveling, at least for my airline, going to that international destination is free. But coming back, you're going to end up paying the tax for that country. Say you go to, say, London or Paris, it's going to be $100 or more for that destination because Europe is always more expensive. But one thing I will have to say is that these travel benefits, they are on standby. So it's not a confirmed seat, unfortunately, but it's okay too, because as a standby passenger, I've been fortunate enough to get on these flights, especially when I commute home. So it's okay. When you are using your flight attendant benefits and your family is using them as well, just make sure that they're following the rules and guidelines, because sometimes you can lose your benefits, say if your family member isn't behaving properly or if you're not behaving properly. So just make sure that you are using your benefits wisely. So the next pro that I will say is one of the pros that I do enjoy the most is getting a chance to work with different people every time I go to work. Even though DC is a small base, I still haven't worked with everyone. Some people I have worked with multiple times, and some people it was my first time working with them. But DC, I will say, is a pretty cool base. A lot of people are very down to earth. And honestly, I've enjoyed working with most of the people so far that I've had trips with. Even if the trip itself wasn't great, because you guys know that I've been having a very hard time at work, but my crew, they get me through the day and it's really fun. And of course, I can't record on the aircraft just because of certain rules and regulations we have. But if you were to be on one of my flights and see how we are on the aircraft, we do have a good time and do our best to get each other through the day. But I think it's just these lasting, bonds that you share for like such a short amount of time. Because you have to think about it. You're with, your crew sometimes for 2 to 3 days or 4 day trips. So you want to be able to get along with them. And some of these people that I've flown with, some of them are much older than me or much younger than me, and we still are able to share a lot of things in common. We all miss our families. We wish that we were home. Some of us talk about how much we've traveled the world. Some of us haven't been anywhere yet, and we're still able to get along and, share that bond with one another. So you can make some pretty lasting friendships with this career. So if that's something that you want more of, more lasting friendships, making an impact, then this is a good career to do that. And so, with meeting a lot of different flight crews and working with a lot of different flight crews, you also get a chance to meet some passengers. You're going to meet so many different passengers, which can be exciting, but it can also be a drawback too, because sometimes passengers aren't always nice. I will say that, but that's okay too, because you do have a lot of passengers who are sweet. Some of them bring us gifts on flights, which they do not have to do, but we truly appreciate it. And some of them will come back to the galley and just start conversations with us, just asking us, hey, how's your day going? A lot of that goes a long way. So, getting a chance to meet so many different people from all walks of life, whether I'm working with them or I'm just meeting them as a passenger, is pretty fun for me. And I do enjoy that. And that's something that I believe will be long lasting for the future. So, the next pro is your schedule. At my airline, we are allowed 12 days off a month, especially when you're on reserve. I don't know how it is for line holders. I think line holders get more days off than we do, I want to say, but I know as a reserve flight attendant, we get 12 days off a month. So that's something that can work to your advantage too, is being able to have different days off each week. So you could have up to a week off if you wanted. You can have 2 days off a week. You can do 3 days off, 4 days off. And the unfortunate part is you won't be getting weekends off. So that's probably going to the cons, I would say. But you do get different days off during the week. So that's nice too, because while everybody else is at work, you're chilling at home or you're going to another destination, or maybe you picked up on your day off too, or picked up a trip on your day off. That's probably it, all I can think of for the pros. Getting a chance to travel, your family gets those benefits too. Getting a chance to meet different people and making a positive impact, and sharing your story with others, making long lasting friendships, and your schedules, getting a chance to have around 12 days off a month. At least for my airline, that's what you get. Your schedule can vary and be different, and it can be exciting for some people. I want to say what else? I think that's about it when it comes to the pros. So, moving on to the cons, I will say that being away from home for long periods of time, especially if you are a commuter like myself, or if you plan to commute, then it can be a bit challenging. So, I will say that that's a con because you do miss your family, and also you don't always get a chance to make the flight. Say, if you're trying to commute back home, sometimes you could miss your flight, and that means you end up missing going home. So, it can be a lot for a lot of people. But of course, that is my choice. But I chose to commute just because it's more cost effective for me. DC is a very expensive place, and I don't know if I want to really live there long term. So being in Memphis right now is just better for me. But being away from home can be a lot for a lot of flight attendants. So, that's something that you're just going to have to work through. But that's what comes with the job, just being away from what you're familiar with, and, seeing your family and friends every day. It's going to be a little bit challenging. So, that's something you got to work through. Okay, the next con is being on reserve. I don't like the reserve life because it can be a bit rough, not knowing where you're going to be, but also you don't really have, in my opinion, the best quality of life just yet because you're still getting to, if you never have been on reserve and this is your first, job, it can be a lot to handle. For me, I think it's just not having a good quality of life right now. And so the reserve life, you're pretty much at crew scheduling's mercy. They're the ones that call you to schedule your trips. And, you pretty much have to be ready and available for them. Sometimes a lot of people like that, and sometimes some people don't. I'm just someone who doesn't like that right now because I don't have the best quality of life. But I know that eventually it will get better, so you just have to tough it out. So the next con is getting sick. When you do travel, you are exposed to so many germs and so many elements in the air, in the airport, in a different country or different state, different destination you go to. So even if you are the healthiest person, you can get sick. So just making sure that you take proper precautions. But that is a con. I've gotten sick. I've shown that on my channel, on some of my previous videos, which also is, really rough. I don't like being sick. I'm not the best person when I'm sick either. And so I was having a bit of a rough time. So I will say getting sick is definitely a con in this industry. But you may end up getting sick just because you're exposed to quite a bit of elements and you don't know what destination you're going to go to, and you're exposed to what they have as well. The next one, I will say, the next con would be when you first start off as a flight attendant, you're really not going to get paid a lot of money. At my airline, we did get a new contract, and I do see a little bit of an increase when it comes to the pay that we have as a reserve flight attendant. But if you're someone who is just first starting out, you are going to have to budget. So make sure, I would advise to have a good amount of savings, because I'm someone who did not have the proper savings, so I've had to really rebuild things. So just so you don't have to do that, make sure you do have a good amount of savings. But if this is your first job, just know that you are going to have to budget properly and accordingly. The next thing is dealing with cancellations and delays as a flight attendant. Recently at my airline, unfortunately, we have had quite a few delays and cancellations. Sometimes it's due to like maintenance on the aircraft, and sometimes we don't always know why certain things happen. We just have to be, ready and available depending on whatever it is. But if you do have a delay, that cuts into your layover, but also it cuts into passengers getting to their connections. And that's not always a good thing because sometimes some passengers end up missing their connections. And then the next thing is with the cancellations, we don't always like a cancellation because we may be excited to go to a new layover, but now that destination is canceled, so we have to be rerouted. But also, passengers are just as inconvenienced as we are. So that can be pretty hard too. I think that this will probably be the last thing, is not getting the proper rest as a flight attendant. So your schedule, because you don't really have a set schedule, but also with flying, you can go to different time zones. So those time zones can kind of really mess up your schedule. In this industry, you don't really have a routine because your schedule varies from week to week. So getting the proper rest you need is very important, but it's something that I've noticed I've been lacking in this industry, not really getting the proper rest, especially as a reserve flight attendant. And I'll give an example. Say you have a 15-hour layover. Your 15-hour layover starts the minute you land. It's not like your 15-hour layover starts when you're at the hotel, which you would think would be more beneficial, but that's not how it is. So your 15 hours literally starts right when the aircraft lands. And so once you get to the hotel, your 15 hours is kind of, already cut into. But still, I mean, you still have a bit of time to rest, but sometimes it can be hard to sleep at the hotel too, because the hotel could be loud, the bed could be uncomfortable. Unfortunately, some people have had to deal with bed bugs, which is gross. Um, but it just depends. Sometimes you have a good sleep and sometimes you don't. So you just kind of have to prepare for that. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the cons that I can think of. Just being on reserve, being away from home, having to commute, not making enough money right away, the resting, getting sick. That's all I can really think of right now. So that was it when it came to the pros and cons to being a flight attendant. Do not let the cons scare you. I know that this industry can seem overwhelming for a lot of people, but sometimes you just deal with a lot. It doesn't matter what job it is, it's just how you handle things. So, yeah, even though my flight attendant journey has been a rough one and I have had a rough time, I'm determined to having a better work life balance. That's one reason why I'm sharing the pros and cons to being a flight attendant with you, just so you have a heads up on how things will go for you and may go for you. But it is all how you look at things. So I'm doing my best to have a better time and a positive time in my career. But sometimes certain situations happen. So you just have to, deal with it as you can. So if you did stay to the end of this video, I truly do appreciate it. And if you do have any other questions about flight attendant life, then you can always put them in the comments. So thanks again for watching, and I hope everyone has a wonderful week.